Hello, this is Dan Paulnitz at 101.7 The One, interviewing the two co-hosts of The Breakfast Show. I'll let you guys introduce each other real quick here.
My name is Nick Sawicki, and I'm an announcer here at 101.7 The One in Wingham, Ontario, Blackburn Radio.
I am all of those same things, but my name is Julie B.
All right, what are the duties and responsibilities of your job? And I'd like you to list at least three.
Host a program, a morning show, prepare content for the morning show, produce...
Voice commercials. We have to voice commercials. We have to do public appearances, whether those be emceeing an event or through the sales department where they sell what we call an on-location broadcast, where you go and you broadcast from a business, for example.
MacArthur Tire in Hanover recently, or some other places.
So how many hours per day or week do you work? And do you work in shifts, or is it just whenever you need to come in?
Well, our morning show officially starts at 6 a.m. on air, but we do get here before that. There's not like an actual set time.
We don't have a punch clock. The nature of this business is such that we may only be on the air for 4 hours, but then we have some work that we have to do after that, including voicing commercials or doing interviews, or Nick does a promo for the morning show that runs as a commercial throughout the day. And then there are lots of events where you go to where you aren't necessarily being paid to be there, but it's part of your job. So if you only worked 6 hours one day at work, but maybe you put in 4 hours on the weekend.
Like Julie just did one recently over the weekend, and I'm seeing a thing down in between Clinton and Goderich.
Yeah, on a Saturday night, which is not my normal work hours, but that's, one of those things we do.
There's an MS walk in Kincardine that I usually MC, and that's like on a Sunday morning. I'm not getting paid for it, but we realize that things like that come with the territory, with the job.
And we may not work an 8-hour day all the time either.
So can you tell me about your background and how you really got into the field of radio broadcasting or announcing?
Well, I was going to be a French teacher, and that didn't happen. So when I stopped going to university, I explored different options, and this was just one of them that I applied to, and I got in. So I tried it and loved it, and here I am 25 years later.
Initially, I went to college for accounting. I was pursuing that, but it was making me miserable. I was not happy at all. It did not put a smile on my face whatsoever, so I left that. And the Toronto Sun always had an ad that said, "Sexy voices wanted." So I called it up. It's an 800 number. And long story short, it's called the National Institute of Broadcasting. I don't know if it's still around, but it was downtown Toronto.
I remember seeing their ads.
And went to that, but I was at Sheridan at the time when I went to that quote-unquote audition, so I didn't accept into that program. But eventually, long story short, went to Humber for radio broadcasting and graduated from there 2006. Went out to Alberta for 5 years and then came back to Ontario in September of 2011 and have been with The One since then.
What do you like the most about the work that you do here? And I'd like you to provide at least 3 examples of what you like to do.
Every day is usually different. Lots of events that and contests that I've been able to attend and participate in, especially out west. Like we did a contest where we got to fly down to Calgary and go to a Kanye West concert with listeners. That was all right. We did another contest where Las Vegas was involved, and I just so happened to be in Las Vegas. So I got some free stuff in Vegas because of it, just because of radio. Concerts. I don't know how many concerts I've seen for free, because whether or not our station was participating in promoting the event or what have you.
And together, Nick and I did our morning show in Jamaica.
Yeah, that
and
too.
Antigua. We were working. We went there to a sandals resort and then we gave away a trip for a listener to take themselves and someone else to a sandals resort and get to enjoy that. So it's nice to get to do things, but also to give to the people that listen to you every day. It's something we also enjoy about our job is that you get to be a part of someone's day. I mean, we stand in here and, if we're together, we talk kind of talking to each other, but we're really talking to all the people out there. If you're standing in a room by yourself, it's like you're by yourself, except what you're doing is talking to everybody. They feel like you're in their home every morning, and that's kind of cool, that part.
3 things you don't like.
Waking up early, waking up early, waking up early.
Ditto.
When you start in the industry, the business, the pay sucks. It does get better, but when you start, it really does
It's not. Yeah, it's not,
not fun.
a high-paying gig in most cases. Some in the big cities make more, but to live in the big city costs a lot more too. And what else would you say you don't like about it? I don't know. There's not a lot to say. You know, a job is a job. Everybody, it's a great job, and we have fun doing it. But some days it's a job, and you're like other people. You're just like, I wish I didn't have to go to work today. But that's not because of the job itself.
Yeah.
I know you already kind of answered this when you were talking about how you got to where you are today, but what exact education or training is really needed to get here?
Basically, the college diploma. Most of them are a 2-year broadcasting diploma. In some cases, you specify for radio, you specify for journalism or television. That was where I was at when I went to Fanshawe. So I chose radio.
And have you really done anything ever since you came here to, like, I guess, like, more training that you've done ever since you started? Or did you pretty much do all of it when you were in college?
Well, I mean, on the job training, for me, especially technology was the thing. I mean, it cost me my first job. One of my first jobs. It was the reason I was let go because, you know, they didn't need evening announcers anymore or, you know, overnight announcers. All that went away when computers were able to do that job. But that kind of stuff. And then
It's more like just learning on the fly, what you have to adapt to technology-wise primarily.
Yeah.
With this industry, with this job.
And then, you know, you can sometimes take what you know and do it in other jobs, or like I do freelance voicing. Right. I've been reading commercials for 25 years, and then you can take that and make it into another job if, you know, you can find that kind of work outside of the radio station.
Right. So, in terms of characteristics or personality traits that you need to, like, really be successful here, what do you think that you really need?
Well, you need to be a little bit outgoing, you know. The nice part is you're not on television. People don't see you if you're a little bit shy, but you have to be able to speak, and you have to be able to do some of that on the fly because radio, something can change in a heartbeat, and you have to change what you were going to say or what you were going to do, especially when you're maybe emceeing an event and, so-and-so isn't showing up. So now we're going to do something else. And so you have to be comfortable.
Like tell you to, can you kill 2 minutes of time? And, you know, you're like, okay, how am I going to do that? But you kind of got to figure it out. I would just say, and you kind of come out of your shell in this business too. Like when I went to Humber, you know, getting in front of the class, it's still, you know, my cheeks would get red. I'd be, you know, embarrassed, but you slowly lose that and just become, you get used to being in front of people and strangers looking at you like, what is he going to say?
Like this kid asking us questions. What?
Yeah.
I mean, other people in the building, the more behind the scenes people don't necessarily have those same issues, but they do support some of the events we go to as well. So sometimes, you know, our creative writers might be there and our promotions person might not be on the air, but she's at a lot of events. And it's a diverse group of jobs that you can find within this building.
I already kind of know the answer to the question because things like radio is slowly starting to have a lot more competition with things online like live streams and things like that happening where people are also speaking live in front of audiences. But do you think that there is any demand for workers in the field of radio, or how do you feel the job security will be now and like in 10 years?
I'd say there'd be less jobs overall in 10 years than there currently is.
Definitely fewer. There are fewer jobs now than when I started. That's just the reality of technology, one, and the economy and attrition that happens when, you know, jobs are either eliminated or somebody leaves and they don't replace that job. Other people just do a little more. And that's the way it's the world, not just this industry.
So what should people do to really get started in the career? Like, obviously, I've started with doing my co-op at Blue Water Radio and coming in and talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything else that somebody like me could do to really get into the field?
Oh, well, at least you're doing something. It's, you know, you can't just show up at college and say, hey, I want to be in radio. They want to see that you've, you know, made an effort.
Yeah, the application process is much different than
you're,
when I applied.
Yeah, you're sending audition tapes and you're doing things, and they're looking for that kind of volunteer work where you've shown an interest in the industry already, or at least communications related. Yeah,
or you have your own podcast or something like. Whether or not anybody really even listens to it,
a YouTuber.
It's just the audition process. Looking at Humber now, I was like, what? like all these portfolios they have to send in. I'm like, that's so like foreign to me and alien. I'd be like,
Oh,
"What?"
yeah, and I'm not going to lie. When I applied, I literally just applied. And then there was a secondary application where we had to, record onto our cassette recorder some of the words and phrases and paragraphs and things they wanted you to do, and then explain why you wanted to do this job and what you liked about radio and that sort of thing. So, yeah, anything you can do ahead of time is definitely beneficial.
You already kind of answered this when I was asking the demand in the field, and you were kind of saying that technology would be something that would really change the job. How do you think the technology would change it? Like advances in the future, what do you think the advances would be?
Well, unfortunately, it'll mean fewer people needed to do the jobs that technology can do. Which is,
There's places in Ottawa, for example, and there's also in, I think, Calgary or Edmonton,
Yep. Calgary, Seattle,
where they are literally their morning show, like in Edmonton. It's on this 92.5. The Chuck is what the station is called, and Jump in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
It's their morning show is a rebroadcast or what have you of a Seattle, Washington morning show.
Yes.
We got to go on the air.
Yeah. So they don't even have a live morning
Like
show.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
101.7 The One. This feeling. Shane Smokers with Kelsey Ballerini. Julie B. and Nick here. Hello to you.
Hey, good morning. Hope you're having a great Tuesday so far. Coming up, David Jones will help get you through the rest of the morning.
But first, let's get our shadow on the air
Oh,
here.
yeah. We have a job shadow
His
today.
name's Daniel. Dan from Hanover. You're a co-op student at JDSS. How has your job shadow experience been this morning, sir?
It's been pretty good. It's been really interesting.
It's a little
talking-
early. You didn't even have to come in super early, but
Well, it's definitely interesting to talk to two different people than who I normally talk to with being on air and live. It's really cool seeing how other people handle their morning shows compared to where I've watched or looked or even done myself.
wonderful. Well, we're glad. So you're pursuing this a little bit and checking things out with your co-op through high school. Where do you go to school?
I go to school at JDSS. I am
Hanover.
technically in grade 12, but I call it grade 13, doing my co-op just because I didn't know what I was going to be doing with myself after school.
We
so
call
I
it the
figured,
victory lap at my house.
Exactly.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope. You got to figure out what you want to do.
All the best to you. Thanks for coming in. And I know you got some maybe more questions for us off the air for your little assignment here. But thanks for coming in. And all the best to you in the future, Daniel.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Mr. David Jones rolling in here shortly and a workday giveaway after 5 with Chris Fudali this afternoon. Enjoy your day. Be safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Ciao for now.
Oh, yeah, morning show. One of the things, especially in this region, and I feel like there are other places that don't understand how things work where we are. We're not broadcasting just to one town or one city, right? We broadcast to a whole bunch of different towns and rural communities and all the spaces in between. And to be local is so important.
Yeah.
People want to hear about what's happening where they live. And I don't think that the way they're going with some of the
Sometimes
things-
the bean counters, the accountants don't care about that
Yeah.
And so-
because
yeah.
it is, at the end of the day, a business.
Yeah.
And they
But
want
to
see.
have a morning show in Seattle that can broadcast in Ottawa, they don't live there. They don't know anything about it. They're not from there. It doesn't make sense to me. But maybe I'm a little old school.
I already know a few, such as TV broadcasting or something along those lines. But what other jobs could you really use with the stuff that you've picked up through college and that you're doing right now?
Oh, if I were to leave here, I often think, I'm not qualified for anything because, say, for example, the computer programs that you learn aren't used anywhere else. So, I might not have Microsoft Office or Word or the various things, spreadsheets. I don't actually know how to use a lot of those programs. I would learn them. But you can take the skills you have. I know a number of people that have gone and worked in Parliament as assistants or communication liaisons for various politicians. So that as radio people, especially news people, that's one of the things they can sort of move sideways, not in the same business, but you're using the same skill set.
Yeah, I've got lots of former colleagues who are no longer in radio, but the communications side of industry, of business.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty well for themselves.
But yeah, there certainly are ways you can take the skills you have and adapt that to some other job. Not that we're leaving, boss.
Tell me about how you normally work, where you normally work, that kind of thing.
When I get in the building, I go right into the studio, go into the on-air studio. We're not on air yet, but I log into the computer and just start to prepare for the day in there, and then that little room that I showed you before is where I spend most of my time after we're off the air after 10 a.m.
Right, and I come in here, and I sometimes have to do interviews for the Community Minute. And we read commercials in the studio. We showed you with Dan, the producer, who creates the finished product with all the different elements. And that's about it.
Working conditions are,
it's
not
all
bad.
good. I'm not sure what you really mean.
The road conditions are terrible sometimes on the way here.
In what ways does the job that you do here, how much work you have to put into, how does it affect your personal life?
Actually, we're fortunate in that as much as you may not like getting up really early, you're done early. So, for example, Nick has 2 small children that he's able to go home and they don't have to have too much childcare because he can go home and then his wife goes to work.
Yeah, she usually, when she does work, usually it'll be like 2 p.m. is when she starts. So
that said, sometimes you have to go to bed really early, so the end of your day is different than it might be for a lot of people, where you may have to go to bed earlier, so you're not exactly able to go to some events or different things in your personal life because you need to go to bed and get up really early.
So outside of that, how many employees do you, like how many people are employed here, like regularly?
Somewhere between 20 and 30,
I'd say 30 for sure.
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time there were 100 people working in this building. It's only about 30 now.
I've already got this question answered from Andy, who's the person that I co-op with, but it could be different for people all around the area. What's the like around the starting wage or salary of a radio broadcaster or announcer?
Oh, depends.
Nowadays,
Depends where you work,
yeah.
but I mean, you'll get paid more in the city, generally speaking, because it costs more to live there. When I started, I think we've had this conversation, I was making about $18,000 when I came here.
In 2006, when I accepted my first full-time job in radio, the salary was $22,800 in Fort McMurray, Alberta. My rent was $705 a month. Things were fun.
Yeah, it's a little tight. And then, the longer you're somewhere, generally speaking, your wage increases and cost of living. And, some places have unions, and that made it easier for them to get increases. Some places don't. It all depends. So you could have a wide range. But generally speaking, I don't think we make as much as people think we make.
Yeah.
Right. So outside of like massive radio personalities like Howard Stern, for example, who probably make some millions. What's the maximum wage salary of the career, like outside of like Howard Stern area, I guess?
Well, even in Toronto, there's some people that make, $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say that salaries have gone down, generally speaking, in larger markets like Toronto. There's a good website, Toronto Mike. Toronto Mike is the podcast. And he talks with a lot of radio personalities, television personalities who are still currently working or who, used to be big names back in the day. And they do touch on salary in that sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, without telling you exactly what I make, I don't make $50,000 a year before taxes. So I make less than that, and then taxes come off. And so it's just kind of a regular wage, There are a ton of jobs that make more money than ours do. But sometimes it's a trade-off for getting to live where we live and get to do the job we do, something you enjoy, as opposed to another job that might be stress up to here for a $100,000 salary. So, yeah.
All right. So, is there any, as much as the salary may not be as high as like some people might believe in an announcer, what do you think, or I guess not really, what do you think? What kind of benefits can anybody who wants to get into the field expect from radio broadcasting?
Well, it depends what you mean by benefits. If you mean, dental and medical, then your company will usually have something along those lines. Some are better than others, clearly, depending on how big your corporation is. We have 3 stations here. There's a station in London. There are a few other stations outside of that. There's Sarnia and Leamington and Chatham. So we have a slightly bigger company. We're not as big as, say, Bell, that has, TV, radio, internet, all sorts of things. But the other benefits are about what I was saying already about lifestyle. Sometimes you choose lifestyle over a salary. And, I'm okay. I enjoy living in a small town. I don't want to live in the city. I never had any desire to ever go to Toronto and do this job. So to be here is fine by me. I didn't think I would still be here. I actually thought I would be somewhere else, move along and do something, the same job in a different place. That's not what happened either. So there's a benefit to being able to live somewhere where people know you. Where you can raise your kids and you feel a little bit safer than some of the other places in the big city and whatnot. So that's a benefit too.
And so I have an option to ask one additional question that isn't part of the actual questionnaire that we're supposed to do.
Okay.
So it's just gonna be a random one that's kind of for fun, I guess. Have you ever met anybody who is internationally famous through doing broadcasting?
Like musical person?
Music,
Anyone.
actor,
Anyone.
anybody that's internationally famous through broadcasting. Have you ever met anybody like that?
Yeah, like musical artists.
We met, lots of
More
musical
out
artists.
west than here, but here still occasionally.
I met the Dixie Chicks. I met Terry Clark, Paul Brandt. I was on the country station for a long time, so I've met more of them, say, than the pop artists, for example. But
I had to meet Flo Rida. And when I was in Alberta still, Kiss came to town. I didn't actually meet them, but during the first 3 songs of their show, there was maybe 3 or 4 of us, we got to stand right in front of the stage and take pictures just for the first 3 songs. Once the 3 songs were done, they were like, okay, get out of here. That's just their stipulations or what have you. But it was as a kid, I was a huge Kiss fan. So being right there looking at them and taking pictures. That was pretty cool.
I used to go to a big country music festival in Ohio. 4 days of country music, and there's camping and all kinds, and it's all tons of big names. And I introduced Terry Clark there. She was the only Canadian on the bill, and I'm Canadian, so I asked, and they were like, "Yeah, okay, sure." Hey, sometimes you just get what you ask for. So yeah, I got to meet her backstage, and then we had other events here. We've had various concerts, and she was at one of those, and Blue Rodeo, Bare Naked Ladies. So sometimes you get to meet those people, mostly because you're just introducing them at their show.
Yeah, right. That should be everything.
All right.
Pretty sure.
There we go. That was Dan's questionnaire.